I had to douse him in some diatomaceous earth, and then I took him off and threw him on the ground. Hey garden friends, welcome back to Not Quite Homesteading, ESK Garden. Today I'm going to be doing some work in the garden. I'm going to start transitioning out some plants pretty soon, and there are some things that I need to get taken care of before I do that. In this video we're going to be doing a harvest, and I'm going to be planting my strawberry plant. So I want to bring you guys along for that. Of course, if you are new here, if you're a gardening enthusiast, if you love a good gardening journey, or if you're a new gardener yourself looking for community support, definitely hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and let's engage and have some fun around this gardening thing. So before I get into doing those things, I wanted to show you guys give you guys a couple of quick updates. So I think for one, my blueberry plant, which I told y'all I trimmed, it's been, I want to say, about 2 weeks since I recorded that video, and this is what's happening. So it doesn't look like it's doing a lot. Now, I just leaned over and I do see what looks like a little blueberry leaf right here and down right there. I did think I was seeing like new blossoms that looked like they were going to kind of swell a little bit along this side. So I don't know, but I do still feel like this top of this plant here is not really doing anything. Oh look, I actually do have a blossom right here also. It's actually a leaf. So I see a few of those. I'm hoping that we can save this plant. I did decide already that I'm going to get a third blueberry plant just in case. But that kind of made me happy because I was looking the other day and I didn't see anything. So I was like ready to give up on this plant. But I'm still going to hold out hope, but I'm also not going to let that be the plant that I determine, or the plant that I rely on to get fruits off of my other plant. So that was a surprise and a good update. My little lettuce over here, if you can see, there is an I don't want to say, I think it's an aphid. It actually looks like the lettuce bug. There are these little bugs that sometimes, even if you get your lettuce from the grocery store, they'll make their way into the bags. Like, they're supposed to be harmless, but at the same time, I don't want them on my lettuce. And I saw one earlier. It had fallen off, and then there were quite a few like eggs that I went ahead and pulled off on these lettuce this morning. So I'm saying all that to say, like, what is that? Y'all see that? That is the spinach. That's another reason I'm out here about to do this harvest, because the pest pressure is starting to really ramp up. We've been pretty much around the 80 mark for, I want to say, almost a week now. And when I say I'm starting to see a whole lot, I don't know if I'm ready, y'all, but we're gonna make it work. So I will say, up to this point, I have not sprayed my plants with anything. I haven't done any spraying since the early fall, and I've been trying to hold off and avoid it as much as I possibly can, but it is time. So I think I am going to spray my plants today. I'll wait until the evening to do it, but we're just seeing way too much happening here, and I can only take but so much at a time, at one time. You can see I have, the slugs are going crazy. I definitely put diatomaceous earth on a couple of them this morning, but they are just climbing up my bags, finding them in the bags. The raised bed, I don't know how he got in there around all that netting, but he was definitely on my lettuce, and I had to douse him in some diatomaceous earth, and then I took him off and threw him on the ground. But I just can't do the slugs, and they're just like gross and slimy and disgusting. Like, when I was a kid, I would definitely take salt and throw them on like slugs and snails. I know that is like so inhumane, but city girl here, we just didn't appreciate bugs or nature for any reason, because we weren't doing stuff like this. I will say now, I do try to leave them alone, but you know, again, when they're inside my plants, then that's kind of a deal breaker. So I saw one on one of the beet like leaves, the stem, and when I went back to douse it with the diatomaceous earth, I didn't see it anymore. So I guess he felt me like moving the little leaf around, and he was he was like, I'm getting out of Dodge. So I just was like, okay. I still dropped the is it rain? We're supposed to get a thunderstorm today, but it doesn't seem like it's now. But yeah, so I still dropped the diatomaceous earth anyhow, but I didn't see him after that. So I want to try to get some of these things done. I'm actually cleaning out the buckets that I need. One is my harvesting bucket, and the other one is just kind of utility bucket, and I'm gonna put the strawberry roots in that to soak. Y'all, they are, you see? So I see this is why people say diatomaceous earth doesn't work. Now I done doused this little baby and he made his way out. Look at him, just a climbing up the bag. He wants me to get aggressive. I'm gonna have to go get the chemical spray for him since he on the outside of the bag. You see all that diatomaceous earth? And they are just making their way up these bags. I was like, I shifted, so I'm gonna say that's the other thing, right? I shifted a lot of the grow bags into what's gonna be kind of like the middle of the raised bed section. So it has made it so much easier for them to get on these bags because they don't have to crawl over the dry concrete. And I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm gonna have to come up with some solution to make sure I can keep them at bay because it's a lot of them. So the other thing that is a contributor to this, and I'm going to be investing pretty soon in the Oyas because I do feel like the excess watering and water dripping from the garden beds is a key contributor. So I think with the Oyas, it will keep the soil moist but not overly saturated. And I say overly saturated because when I'm watering, I have to make sure the water gets down. So of course, because raised bed mix is well draining, you end up with excess water going down the actual, beds, filling the grass around it, and then that soil stays really moist. That's the environment they like and they thrive in it. So they end up kind of hanging around the raised beds, and I don't want that. So I definitely want to invest in these Oyas because I think that will minimize the issue of, oh, there's a few of them. Ew. It will minimize the issue of having the excess water down around the garden bed, kind of like that, and creating that environment for them to thrive. So what I'm doing is pulling all of these spinach plants. They've been in here for a long while, and I want to clear this pot to be able to transfer some of my new starts into it. But they were like it's a colony of fungus gnats living in here. So I think against my initial desire to do so, I'm gonna get like a small, like really small greenhouse so that I can have a place to do plant starts and kind of house some of these plants during the, what is that? During maybe like the off season or whatever the case is. because I am over these fungus gnats being in my patio space where I kind of like to come lay out and just chill. That was like ridiculous. I just got flooded with flies. It doesn't make any sense how many fungus gnats are in this particular container. So I'm gonna sit this one outside because I don't want them in here. Get off of me. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And they all are going crazy because I've interrupted their little nesting spot. I'm gonna cut back the cilantro plant as well. This has some pretty solid, Lord, I'm getting attacked, y'all. This has some pretty solid, like, growth on it. So I think I want to go ahead and just kind of cut these off. Oh, that's the leaf. Don't get the leaf. Oh, that smells good. The smell on the cilantro is strong, strong. And the reason I'm taking my time with this one is because obviously I know this plant is probably going to attempt to bolt pretty soon, but I want to try and give it as much opportunity to like provide herbs as possible. I think I shared already that I started like my indoor cilantro plant, so that one has sprouted up quite well, and I should have an abundance of cilantro, you know, throughout the warmer season months. So I'm not worried, like, I'm not like feeling like I'm at a loss because, you know, this one I know is probably going to bolt pretty soon. But I still want to give it the best chance to give me as many herbs as possible. And let me know in the comments, y'all, are you like cilantro, team cilantro, or team cilantro tastes like dish soap? I'm sorry for anyone that, like, unfortunately was cursed with that, like, cilantro tastes like dish soap. I love cilantro. It is one of my favorite herbs, definitely at the very tippy top. So I was like, I don't know what I would do if I felt like this plant tasted like dish soap, because it definitely is an important piece in seasoning for a lot of dishes that I like. So kind of glad I'm not on the dish soap train. I guess it worked out that I cut this plant down too, because I have a couple of new seeds sprouting that I put in here like some time ago. So they probably needed that so that they could get their growth on. I was like, I also want to know, y'all, so do you do your kind of like when you do your harvest, do you preserve it the same day? Do you kind of have like a specific day where you're like you do preservation work? I have found that, like, typically when I do my harvest, I try to do any preservation type stuff that same day. I know that's not going to always be the case because at some point the garden is going to outpace me, but I find that I have to be mentally prepared to do the harvest because it's taken like all day to do whatever I'm doing, typically, because I'm harvesting enough stuff. Even though some stuff I'm just putting away in bags, but when I have to like wash greens, blanch greens, freeze them, that stuff takes all day long. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out a system now where I can kind of set a preservation like process, I will say, not schedule, but a process that I can stick to make sure that when I'm harvesting, I'm getting as much done as I can in that particular time frame or that day. And then if I need to do another day where I can like process other stuff, then I'll incorporate that in. Today I'm probably only going to clean greens. And the reason I like to do the greens the same day is because if I sit them in the refrigerator, especially like salad greens, that kind of stuff, and I don't touch them, I'm probably not gonna want to do it like a different day down the line. So when I harvest like lettuce and those kinds of things, or like the kale, collards, I make sure that I'm mentally prepared to clean and preserve them that same day. You know, whereas something may be like, I don't know, radishes, bulbing vegetables, those kinds of things, those can withstand not being cleaned a little bit longer, and then when I go to cook them, I can just clean them or whatever the case is. So what's your process when it comes to preserving these kinds of things? So the last thing I'm going to take out of here, I probably am at some point going to transition the chard plants that are doing well out of this pot into some of the bags in the garden. I'm gonna probably be doing a sweep of quite a bit of that stuff soon, because I want to start getting the soil prepped in some cases for some of the plants that I want to transition out, because we've been consistent with our weather in the high 70s, and it's been like, I don't say summer, but it definitely has been warm. These have grown significantly in just the last few days. These were struggling, and now they're starting to look a lot better than they did. So I want to go ahead and get those plants out, because I really need to get my new starts into some soil, and I need these buckets in order to do it. So I'm actually going to harvest these greens, and then I'm going to pull these plants from here. I'll go ahead and set this bucket outside too. I'm kind of over it. I'm like really over everything being in here with all these fungus gnats. So I do have one other question for y'all. I'm kind of sad that I have to get rid of these, because they're still producing, and the plants, you know, even the little ones that were struggling, they look, you know, pretty decent. They've been doing okay as far as contributing what they're going to contribute to the harvest. I don't know what that is. But I did notice that, and I don't know if this is just this variety or if this is something that all collards do. So if y'all can see this little bubbling that happens on the leaf, I haven't been able to find anything on what that is. If you have experience with it, or you know, if you know what it is, let me know, because like it doesn't happen often, but it definitely happens to seemingly like at least 1 or 2 leaves on each plant. I don't know really what that's about, but if you're familiar with it, let me know please in the comments, because I can't find anything on it online. Now I don't know who did this. I want to say this was my cats, but at the same time, this leaf was kind of tucked away to where I feel like they couldn't get to it. So I don't know. Like, there's definitely no worms on this of any kind. This is inside, but I don't know what did that. Yeah, see, I don't know what that is. This one has it on there too, like on the back. If you can see like all those little spots and things, that's that same thing that's on the other one. Now I will tell y'all, I'm not above getting rid of leaves if they look like crazy, or if I can't identify that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, because the one thing she's not about to do is be eating no bugs. So what you see? So I will sacrifice a leaf in a heartbeat. There's some things you just don't get used to, at least for me anyway. I've harvested quite a bit of collard greens. I have some more, like the ones that are outside in the raised bed. They are huge already, just from these last few days of great weather. So I do have to pull those, and my little netting thing broke again. But for me, I was like, I enjoy having collard greens, but I am not a collard green fanatic in the sense of, you know, I have to grow tons and tons of collard greens. I would say if I can preserve at least like one quart-sized bag of collard greens per, and I say per month, but more so like if I had one per month for the year, I think that would be pretty sufficient for us. We probably don't even eat collard greens once a month, but you know, maybe like every couple of months. But I think that's more than enough. It'll give us a good opportunity to have them. And I will say part of that is because, you know, frozen collard greens at the store, while they don't taste bad, what I did notice, especially this go round, after having grown my own and being able to prep and preserve them the way I wanted to, there are a lot of stems in those frozen collard greens, and you know that you can only get the fresh ones certain times of the year. So, but yeah, so I was saying that I did notice recently that, you know, I made some collard greens that were frozen, and while they're not bad, you know, they do contain a lot of stems. The ones that I grew, I was able to kind of cut them to mostly leaves to make sure that, you know, we get the plant and not just all stem. But I was like, I never really paid attention to it. I probably did, but you know, it's not really much you can do when that's your only option, you know. And they don't sell fresh collard greens during the year, or they only sell them during certain times of the year, rather. Oh, I probably should use the other one for this, because this is hard. Oh. My little shear. Breaking up my little shears. I think I'm going to repot these arugula because they don't seem to be rooting well in here. Oh, child, if y'all don't get off this plant, get out of here. These flies have just been mating like left and right, and I'm over it. So I think I'm going to do myself a favor and replant these Swiss chards outside. And then I might do that with the arugula as well, because they are growing, but it definitely is, the plant is definitely struggling, I would say, to stay up, and that defeats the purpose of doing this. Like, this was really only supposed to be a starting medium anyway. So I was just about to start planting my strawberries, y'all, and of course I turn over the soil and I find all of these, what I think are cut leaf pupa. So they are all in the soil, and I believe that this came from whatever soil I put, not what soil I put, whatever soil was attached to like these bare root strawberries. And because I didn't realize they were bare root, which I should have known, because strawberries are either grown from seed typically or bare roots, but they packed it in soil to protect the roots, and everything just kind of fell apart, and I didn't know what was happening, and I couldn't, like, this wasn't visible when I pulled it out the bag. So I was so confused about what to do to get these planted. So I ended up putting this whole thing with some of that soil inside my actual pot, and of course whatever was in their soil is now in mine, and this was brand new fresh soil that is now contaminated. And the understanding that I have of these is they like to chew the leaves, which I imagine they also, you know, if the plant is just growing and starting out with leaves, they'll be hatching, eating the leaves, and my plants won't survive anyway because they'll be too young to, you know, ward off any of that stuff. So I'm forced to kind of delay my planting even though my roots are soaking. I should be okay to leave them to soak for up to 24 hours. And what that will allow me to do is sanitize this, give this stuff kind of a break, and hopefully kill off these things. I'll sweep this stuff up that's on the ground here, but hopefully kill off these things. I'm going to douse this thing in boiling water. I'm putting hydrogen peroxide in the soil now, and I'm using it full strength, which, you know, I don't really care at this point because there's really no microbial like benefit happening in the soil right now because I haven't planted anything in it. So otherwise, like in soil that, you know, you're trying to in soil that you've planted in already, I mean, even diluted, the hydrogen peroxide is going to kill like good and bad bacteria, but you would just have to replenish it. But there's no damaging effect to doing this because I don't have any plants in there. If you had plants in there, you could still do it. I just wouldn't suggest doing it at full strength. And I'm just hoping that this and the boiling water will be enough to solve the problem, because I was like, I don't want to go planting my strawberries and I'm already setting myself up for failure, you know. I was like, I failed once because I didn't plant them properly, so now I'm just like, I want to make sure that, you know, they at least have a fighting chance now that I know what I'm doing. And I will say, be careful when using this stuff as well. Like, you really should have on gloves, because if it gets on your hands, it is going to burn your hands. Not, you know, badly, but your fingers will turn white for about 30 minutes, which that is considered a peroxide burn. I don't know what the long-term effects of that is, so it might seem harmless, but it does sting in the moment. Ask me how I know. But I'm boiling some water right now. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in, and hopefully that does the job. I picked out quite a few of them. You know, the ones that I found, they were easily seen. I just had one. Now, where did it go? A couple more of them. But if you were using this at a suggested rate, you would want to use this at a rate of, if you're using 3% hydrogen peroxide, 1 part peroxide to 8 parts water. And then if you're doing what I have, which is food grade, 6%, then obviously you do 1 part to 16 parts water. That will help to ensure that you're not like burning or killing, you know, any of your plants if you're using it on soil that has plants inside of them. But, you know, if you're doing something like this, it's really up to you. I would still say dilute it. You don't really need it full strength for it to be effective. But in a case like this, where you have something that clearly has invaded your soil, as long as there's nothing in the I was saying that there should be no issue as long as you don't have anything in the soil. So that was all for today, guys. I don't know why I stopped this video so abruptly, but I will come back tomorrow with the planting of the strawberries. I appreciate you spending just a little time with me in the garden today. Let's keep learning, sowing, and growing together, friends, until our next garden update. Bye.